with everything going on in the US, especially, in the last year, California having dealt with, COVID, uh, the impact of the wildfires and stuff like that, I would feel odd not asking you how you are, your community, your family, how are things in your world?
Yes, we're great. Thank God the fires have not affected us here. We are a little more coastal. Um, there was a couple days where the air quality was definitely um, not so good. But luckily, where we are located, we were not affected. Obviously, we've all been affected a little bit with this COVID.
Of course.
Um, Also, luckily during that time, we had some big projects that were still in construction that were considered essential
Hmm.
according to my clients. So we obviously stayed fairly busy through those months. Um, and I mean, we've seen a little bit of a slowdown, but I would say a lot of people are, at home and
Hmm.
looking at their spaces, and they're like, maybe it's time to remodel this kitchen or bathroom, or wanting to dive into those projects that they've been putting on hold. And so we have been seeing that trend lately.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think a lot of people kind of say, well, it's because people are not taking expensive trips, or maybe they're not, having big fancy weddings or sweet 16s. That may be part of it. My gut is, and I'd love to know what you think. My gut on it is also, I think people have had more time and space to just kind of um, sort of sink into being at home, where they can look at things with more patience and a little bit less of a rush and that type of thing. And I think that time and space has been a big contributing factor to what you're describing.
Yeah. You know, I think, yeah, I agree. They've had ideas of what they want to do, and kind of has given given them the time a little bit to, start digging at some of those things that they've been wanting to take on. And yeah, this weird time has been a blessing and a curse, but
Of course.
um, in a way, I think yes, it's been tough for some businesses, and yes, we've all had some effect to it. But I think sometimes it can be good to take a break and step back, and
Yep.
um, you know, the crazy rush sometimes can take a toll on us, the stress and everything. So I feel like some of these pauses in life can sometimes be beneficial. And I know that can go the other way too, where, people, can be hurting, or mentally maybe, depressed, or,
Hmm.
falling into out, drinking. And
Yeah.
so there's definitely that. But I think those that do work hard, and, it's kind of given us a little bit of a breather.
For sure.
And which I think can be good for you, and a reset in a way.
I completely agree. Um, so the name Kristianne, very, very popular here in Quebec,
We
usually spelled with a C instead of a K here, but as common probably as Jennifer or Lisa or
Oh, really?
Jane. And yeah, Kristianne is an extremely popular name here.
Oh, nice.
Um, if I am correct and I read everything properly, you grew up in Alabama.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit. I know you won your first design award at 28, which is extremely young, but help me if you can take maybe a few minutes and just tell maybe a little bit of your story,
Yeah.
how you grew up and where you went to school, what inspired you. How did you get to where we are here at the end of 2020 with you, with your own award-winning design firm in Solano Beach? Help me understand the journey a little
Sure.
bit.
Yes. I'll try to compact it. But yes, I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, deep South. I was actually born in California,
Okay.
but my parents moved when I was 6 months to Alabama. And growing up was a simple life, nothing taken for granted. We were just raised as, what we need, we buy, and nothing in excess.
Mhm.
So it was a very humbling place, and I didn't know anything different. Obviously, it is very different from California. But I love that because I feel like it's grounded me and given me a nice perspective on, the value of, when we are purchasing or dealing with situations where we have to make decisions, you know, um, it doesn't always have to be the most expensive. There are creative ways to make something happen. And I think that's kind of where I bring in to my work today is, how can we achieve this in the most cost effective way? That's just something that I've been raised in, being in Alabama. But yeah, so my venture, I went to school in Samford in Birmingham, Alabama. And after that, I've always wanted to check out California. So me and a girlfriend decided to drive across country after graduating. And we did a little SoCal tour. And I had some family out here. So we just took the summer to explore, probably one of the best summers of my life.
Mhm.
And then we decided that we loved California, and I couldn't see myself going back. And I was just like, this is the dream of what I could see, design wise. Um, there's a little more of an elevated uh, uh, design aesthetic, and challenge too, that for whatever reason just got me, jump started. And I I saw that there's some great opportunity. And
I imagine also, and so I don't mean to interrupt,
yeah,
but I have not lived in, I've not spent time in Alabama, but I did live for almost a year and a half just outside of Beaufort, South Carolina. So I understand a little bit about, that the culture in the South. And I would wonder if one of those things going from Alabama to California, um, you just described kind of more design elements that you could work with. I wonder if part of that is just topography. I mean, California has coastal, desert, mountain, very lush and green. It's got a lot of physical
terrain.
landscape to play with. I wonder if that played into that kind of.
Yes, I mean the coastline definitely was inspiring. There's definitely a different level of design and architecture that goes into these coastal homes. So for sure, I saw some amazing homes that I was, like, wow, this could be really fun.
Mhm.
That and so it's when you see that, it's kind of hard to, go backwards, and say, oh, I'm just going to go back and design a, you know, simple Southern typical home.
Yep.
But there is some beauty, obviously, in the Southern traditional homes.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yes. So I would say, a hint of that, bringing a little bit of that uniqueness, and a little boldness, to some of those patterns and things that the South has, that I feel like I've kind of integrated into what we do. And in a way, it's so backing up. Sorry. So after I came out in 2005, and had worked with a custom cabinet showroom, an architectural firm for a little bit, and I was, looking to actually continue and working with the firm. And at one point, my sales position and design position with this custom cabinet company um, started to kind of fizzle out, and wound up leaving because the opportunity just wasn't growing. And it was kind of right at the time of the end of 2007. And I started working with a contractor doing a custom spec home. And kind of during that time, the whole LEED certification, the green building started to become a big trend. And I was like, well, this is cool. This is going to be the future. So I just started diving into educating myself, taking extended classes. And I said, well, if maybe this is going to be where I always knew that I would have my own design firm at some point.
Mm.
But I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to go back to school, get my business degree, da da da. I just felt that I would. and then in '08, things just crashed, and I was just finishing up this custom spec home with this contractor. And through that process, I began to see where my skills and values started to become really real to me, that this is my path, and this is something that I should just dive into. And at that point is kind of where my entrepreneurial drive started coming in. And I took on, like, well, things were slow, obviously, and we had one project, but during that time, I really took that extra time to educate myself, taking extra courses, however many I could, and networking. So, I mean, I spent a solid 2 or 3 years just, getting my name out there, networking. And I had a support with this contractor who, we kind of shared and worked on projects together. But it just kind of slowly grew from there. And, reputation and everything, is important to me. And so I really value the, if I make a commitment or tell my clients, hey, I'm going to get this done for you, follow through is one of my biggest things. I would say, as long as you can follow through and deliver what you preached, then I think you're kind of in a good position. So
Well, I
that's
think
always,
that's just beautifully universal. I think that's
yeah,
just something that, and it's one of the, it's a big thing, but it's in some ways it's a small thing. And it's something that, so many people, professionals in every industry, just potentially miss or don't necessarily take as seriously or focus on as much as possible.
yeah, yeah. So I guess kind of generally that was my path. And obviously through these past years has been ups and downs and crazy times and slow times. It's, a little bit of that ebb and flow in our
Of
world.
course.
It is a creative business. And so, but every experience has been amazing, and I've had some amazing clients. I've had some not so fun clients,
Sure.
but those are great because they begin to shape us and just help us, take on those tough jobs and deal with them. So
And and I'll tell you that I have spent, so first of all, I lived in California for about a year and a half, a little bit more north in Carmel, and have spent a lot of time in California. I just love going. You never have to twist my arm to get on a plane and go to California. Um, and over the last year and a half, I've been to Solano Beach probably half a dozen times.
yeah,
And I absolutely love it.
yeah,
I think it's such a great um, small town that's cool with a strong focus on design. It just seems to be, you know, one of those perfect places that is not too big, not too small. It really just feels very good. Um, what was it about Solano Beach with all of the options of California, from northern to LA to San Diego to, I mean, there's like a whole
yeah,
multitude of worlds in California. What was it
yeah.
about Solano Beach that sort of called to you and said, I'm going to plant my flag here?
Well, I've moved in a few different communities, but it's, as far as my office has always been in North County. So North County, San Diego kind of encompasses like Carlsbad, Encinitas, Cardiff, Solana Beach, Del Mar. That's kind of the blanket of North County. So I've been in Solana Beach and then Del Mar, and now back in Solana Beach. But I've loved North County. It has like a homey, quiet feel, but yet this beautiful, beautiful lay of land. I mean, the views, the there's just so many, just such a unique part that there's a piece of it that reminded me of the South, yet it's different. But contrast to LA, where me and my friend had lived for a little bit, I didn't feel that it was home, and it wasn't as friendly, or I didn't think I was getting authentic. The people didn't feel as authentic, and wasn't sure, who was who, or if someone was putting on a face. I don't know. I didn't feel that place. It just didn't feel right for me. But North County here in San Diego, it just had it had just a beauty to it, but also uh, pieces of it that remind me of the South. And I feel like people are just a little more open. And yeah, I think that was kind of the main thing. I have lived downtown in Little Italy personally, which is a cool, it was just a fun experience to be down there. So I had a little bit of the city vibe, and now back in North County. But yeah, I love the different communities of San Diego are all have their own little unique
I
flair.
do.
And so I just always love the coastal vibe here.
I from all the places that I have visited, I think it's just I love going. I
Yeah,
just I think it's my pace. If
yeah,
I was picking somewhere to spend a lot of time or live in California, it would definitely be in my top two for sure.
yeah. I
Um,
will admit though that I people always like are surprised by this, that I don't go to the beach. I see it, it's there.
mhm,
But for whatever reason, it's just it's not my place that I go hang out. I don't know,
okay,
but
all good.
funny enough.
Funny enough, indeed.
Yeah.
I want to shift a little bit now to your work. And one of the things, obviously, I don't want to say biased, but I'm constantly looking for designers who have embraced the outdoors in their work. And I think that was a real gap for a really, really long time in the traditional sense of there was interior design, there was a wall, then there was landscape. And I think now, and we talk about this all the time, whether that's the stylistic elements, what people are looking for, uh, less of a physical divide with glass and nano walls that have a much greater harmony in the way they bring spaces together. I spent again before our time together today, I spent a lot of time on your site and noticed that the vast majority of your projects, even the first one at the very top of your website in your Contemporary Canyon series, the very first picture there has an indoor outdoor image to it. And it's obviously, you have articulated this a lot in your work. So it's a long-winded question, but I guess I'd like to know, is this something you've always done and believed in? Are you seeing
Um,
changes in what consumers are asking for, what inspires you? Help me understand your thoughts on this.
sure. Yeah. I feel like it has grown. I would say in the beginning it was I, I probably wasn't as involved, and I would say over the past few years, my involvement has definitely become more in the outdoor spaces. It's funny, I've even had clients hire me for kind of layout of an outdoor barbecue, or kind of like a conceptual idea. I mean, not landscape architect, but we would draw up a layout or plan for, obviously, for barbecue and outdoor spaces, space planning purposes. And yes, that our clients more and more have been wanting to incorporate that. Obviously, in our beautiful area, there's opportunity, in every property and home to capture that, and it definitely adds value here. It's
Huge.
definitely something that our clients have noticed more and more that add value, and I think that's just grown in the real estate market. The realtors have started to push, outdoor living space. And I would say like 5 or so years ago, that kind of started to become a bigger element. And so we've definitely have started incorporating and focusing on some of those spaces.
And what do you think has shifted in the consumer request? So I guess I'll ask the question this way. If you think about 10 years ago, the average consumer, if they wanted to speak to their designer, architect about what their vision was, they typically would go to the newsstand or the magazine shop, and they'd clip out or take pages out of design magazines. And today, the consumer has such access to inspiration, whether that is from progressive retailers, a Restoration Hardware as an example, House, Pinterest, just mood boards.
Yeah.
As someone who in a designer role, I imagine part of the value that you bring to your clients is understanding what they are looking for or helping them to articulate when they don't necessarily have the words.
Yep.
So you can say to Ryan, this is 18th century farmhouse contemporary, and I would look at you like you were from Mars. I have absolutely couldn't tell you what that means with Spanish.
Yeah.
Like I don't speak the language, but
Right.
yet if you show me a picture or an image, I can say I like this, I don't like this. Have these technologies in your world helped, taken away from, created obstacle and challenge? How has the technology affected you and your work?
Um, it, I use it in the beginning stages conceptually. I think it helps initially. The clients that, there are those that think that they can design and build a home based on Pinterest pictures or things from the magazine. There are those people exist. But, I've definitely tried, my biggest goal has been trying to educate people and showing that it is a different world and it's a full-time job, to be able to communicate and to effectively, get the design that you're looking for. There's so many layers to it. And if you depend on the contractor to install it and match that picture that you have, more likely you're not going to get exactly what you're going for, because they don't have the bandwidth. They're not there to go search product and figure out what kind of stone you like and hold your hand through picking cabinetry or hardware or lighting. Like, that's not their job. And I've preached it for a while, and I feel I've noticed that it's starting to shift a little more, where people are like, okay, I need to get a designer on board, but those are people that understand. You know, I've educated some very smart clients, on what we do, and it's been an eye opener for them, and they're like, oh, after our initial conversation, they see the value of what we bring, and they usually are like, okay, yes, we want to work with you, because you're going to save us time off of our schedule. We're going to streamline the design, and and can effectively communicate during the process if there is something that we need to work out or find that solution. But I'm there to kind of push that project through and be that right hand person to the contractor to execute things effectively and speak the same language, because these clients don't quite know how to communicate or speak that same language. It's hard for them to articulate. So I'm kind of there, like, translating the client, their looks and their style, which, as you mentioned, Pinterest and some of these other platforms, we create an initial board kind of in the beginning. Like, conceptually, I have them go and pull pictures or things that they like, just to get the direction of that of elements or the style that they're drawn to. So once we compile that and we kind of go through it, we'll create a little bit of our own conceptual board and just say, hey, this is kind of our direction that we're moving towards. These are a couple finishes, as our main finishes, and kind of have that checkpoint. And I go, from this point, we start developing it further and getting into the drawings, and starting to create finished schedules and plumbing, and kind of getting into all the fixtures and materials.
But it's those micro parts, and I think you're right about the difference and the delineation between design professional and contractor. But it's the little things, the lighting, the faucets, the fixture, the cabinetry, the colors. That is what creates the true identity and character of the space. I mean, of course, walls and things, they're obviously important at the macro level, but what really makes it personal and unique and reflects the story of the homeowner are the things that you that you add to it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, there's definitely several conversations that we get into in the beginning as far as, what they're drawn to. And, I've had a client that's just like, I absolutely hate brass, so, that's something, we take all these little considerations and pull together a cohesive design that reflects them, will be unique to them. But I also challenge my clients a little bit. I like to push them a little bit, like create a little bit of a bold element or a feature that can be a wow factor. Because I'm like, if you're going to hire me, I'm here to present some creative and fun ideas that a typical that they wouldn't typically think of. And I think that's where we bring a little bit of that value, to really make their space a wow factor, so you do want to show it off. I
So,
mean, you
so,
pay.
to, so,
Yeah.
so to that point, and I love that you said that, because it's a great segue into the next thing I wanted to ask you about. That maybe pushing the client has a bit of a negative connotation to it, but maybe it's inspiring or unearthing something that they might not have thought of or considered themselves.
Yeah.
And that needs to be done on a unique basis for each project, obviously. And from someone from the amount of time and experience you have doing this, and you've done so many projects, where do you seek out or gain inspiration from, so you could stay creative and be sort of ready with the next idea, the next thing for each client, and making each one feel unique and special? How do you do that personally, and what inspires you?
Yeah, I mean, staying up to speed with products, trends. I get newsletters and updates of new things, and so I would say, being educated on what's out there. Sometimes I go to design shows, and um, maybe not this year, but it is something that I'm making sure I'm digging into. But sometimes it's even when we're in the drawings and we're kind of putting our hands around the layout and what's going on. To be honest, sometimes my creativity comes into when I'm even on CAD, drafting up an elevation or something, or doing an edit, and I get inspired by how something could lay out. And it's odd, but it's sometimes in the technical side,
Mm-hmm.
of design that my creative ideas begin to flow a little bit, where I'm like, ooh, we could accent this wall, or highlight with a fixture, or, kind of see from the plan or elevations, like how something's laying out. And sometimes it's collaborating with my designers, and we're talking through some ideas, and sometimes they research and find something cool, and we, so there's different avenues when we come up with these fun ideas. But yes, with every client, it's a little different. And so I know the ones that, they'll be open to it, and how much I can kind of push. And there's a little bit of psychology and all that.
Of course.
Um, so, so yeah, I mean, I would say, I present options. I'm like, hey, we could do the safe route, something basic. We could elevate it with maybe this punch, or we could kind of, do something really fun and different. And I would say for the most part, clients kind of veer towards the middle, but I've had those that are like, you know what, let's just do it. And more, I've had clients that are like, hey, we trust you, and let's do something fun.
Okay.
So,
Well, I want to circle back to the outdoors.
yep.
From one of the reasons that myself and my partner Stefan, started Urban Bonfire in 2013 was about trying to bridge the historic gap between indoor and outdoor kitchen cooking experiences. And we believed, even here in Montreal, where our weather is not the greatest for about 6 months of the year, we believe that people spend time, enjoy, create memories as much outdoors as indoors. So why should they have lackluster or design functionality that's less than indoors? And that, filling that gap or making those two sort of even at a macro level, that was kind of our mission. What are as it relates to the outdoors, and you said you've seen a shift over the last 5 or so years, what do you think is contributing to that? And secondly, as it comes to the outdoors, when you're talking to clients now, are they bringing up the outdoors with more emphasis and priority than they would have 5, 7, 10 years ago? Or are you now weaving it in because you bring the two together and connect? Help me understand that evolution a little bit.
Yeah. I would say the majority,
I,
the
I
clients.
asked long I asked long questions.
No, 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 that's perfect. I would say the majority of clients uh, kind of bring it up. And I would say I've also had clients that are like, we want to get into the outdoor space, but we're gonna have to put it on hold and come back, or so I do have clients that know it's important, but you know if they haven't brought it up, I definitely bring it up because I think it does add value again here in Southern California.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I think the clients know and are educated now that the outdoor living space adds a value to life and their home, and we use it like almost, you know 12,
Uh-huh.
almost every month out of the year
Yep.
here. And so why not capture that? Why not have a great ambiance and useful space that you can gather, especially now during these days, being outdoor. um, so I would say they bring it up as something that they do want to incorporate most of the time. And so yeah, we always look at layout and product wise, I think it's become, clients are looking for quality products. Here we get a lot of harsh weather, the
Mhm.
salty air, the sun. It's harsh climate, and
Yep.
and things don't last very long out here.
Yeah.
So the quality of a product for outdoor, you kind of have to up that level and make sure, if you're going to build something out and invest in that space, it needs to be done right, for it to last. And
And are you seeing, or have you seen over the last, let's say, 5 years, a lot of change in manufacturing and availability of products? Just, 10 years ago, who would have thought about an outdoor television and pergolas that, change with an app, and heaters and cool, and appliances that do outdoor dishwashers are available now. I mean, it seems like almost almost any type of experience you would want indoors, you can now have
yeah,
outdoors. I haven't seen an outdoor microwave yet, but short of that, from fabrics to plumbing to, has that helped you to now know that you have a much greater arsenal of offerings that you can actually deploy for your clients?
definitely. Going to these design shows and products that come out, like there's this extra layer of durability. Um, and part of that, durability was also something huge during the whole LEED um, green building era, and which is still around, but I would say, California, our codes and everything are so stringent that we're kind of
Very.
already at that uh, initial, if not higher level for green building. So we're kind of just do it by default every day. So durability wise, countertop materials like, porcelain type, high impact, stain resistant to weather resistant,
Mhm.
sunproof, sun resistant,
Yep.
all that stuff. We've definitely seen more products like just improving the technology, um, and what they have developed has definitely improved over the years and has opened up a lot of opportunity for design and outdoor.
Do you think that, and what we're seeing, the biggest shift in something we talked about earlier, is that the quote unquote traditional interior designers who might not have touched the outdoors at all 10 years ago, seems to be, a lot of people are now kind of dropping the term interior and thinking about it more as designer as an overall. And I know obviously you use that in your branding and in your titles and all your marketing. Um,
It's
do
a
you
full
see,
package.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking. The historic divide seems to be getting less and less, and there's more blur than ever between indoor. Do you think that this is a an important thing for designers to handle, because the outdoors, it's not a space, it's not a balcony, it's a room. What you do with that room is a question of thought, creativity, investment, of those things, but it is a room nonetheless. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of times the designers didn't touch that room and now they are. Are you happy with the direction this is
Oh,
going in?
definitely. Yes. I mean, I think it, our spaces tend to be flow through. And so I feel like that connection is very important. How that connects indoor and outdoor. I would say indoor outdoor living is a very commonly used
Mhm.
word here. And, yes, I feel like a lot more designers are being involved in that. Just even knowing furniture materials and products, that all adds in, and it's definitely grown, and it's sometimes it's just, hey, that goes with the project, and clients do expect it.
Mhm.
But we get involved, yeah, in many areas, even to the architecture of the home. I mean, we've been asked to sometimes, relay out with material, on the exterior, how things
Mhm.
are going to flow, and color tones, and yeah. So we've been involved in different ways, and so when I say full package, it's encompassing the home, the surroundings, um, down to the interiors. So it all is cohesive, and flows nicely throughout.
I agree. And I think that it's such a nice thing when the indoor and outdoor blend together. It's one of the things that typically when people may not think about it, but when people are looking at a cruise or a hotel room or or something in a resort, for example, when it's being sold or marketed, the
Yeah,
connectivity in view to outdoors, ocean view, mountain view, city view, those are things that people think about and pay premiums for in vacation or recreational settings. And the psychology is the same, and you've articulated it so beautifully in your projects, the ones that I've seen, because you're basically allowing your clients to have that premium visual connection and experience on an average Tuesday
yeah.
because of the way you've framed and you've created
Oh,
that
well,
link.
thank you. It's funny you mentioned hospitality, because I've, that is something that I actually look at a lot, is the hospitality world, and what they're doing. I love going to hotels and seeing another avenue that I get some inspiration, because seeing those ideas come to the home. I have clients that travel a lot, and they're like, I love the look of the one hotel, and they're like, I
Mhm.
just want it. I have more and more clients that reference, a hotel or somewhere
Mhm.
they visited that they want to bring to their home.
Yep.
And so that is an area that we definitely, um, we try to bring that experience to the home of that hotel living, and kind of resort feel. So we really try to make that special, and
It's so funny you say that. My wife, Sarah, who's a yoga teacher, about a year and a half ago was in Malibu for a yoga retreat at the Surf Rider. I don't know if you know that
yeah,
hotel up in Malibu, and came back basically saying, if I could re-envision the experience, the outdoors of our home, which is hard to do in Montreal for the weather
mhm,
comparatively to Malibu, but your point on how much hospitality, hotel, uh, I was talking to someone who just a couple of weeks ago who was the architect and designer of a restaurant in Manhattan Beach. How like those types of things and where people capture beautiful moments of experience and want to relay that in a feeling or a look or an aesthetic into their homes, I think is more and more of a inspirational factor for consumers today than ever. I just think it's huge. It's why we see hotel companies now selling their furniture collections or their bedding or their
yeah,
shower heads or their
yeah.
it's everywhere.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I just had a client purchase. the mattress and bed sheets and everything that they slept in at the Four Seasons recently. So they were like,
Perfect
we just
example.
want it.
Yeah, it's very,
So
very
yeah,
true.
it definitely inspires and is a part of the conversation for sure. The hospitality world.
Well, um, thank you for your inspiring work. I have loved
Thank you.
the research I did, and I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so nice and refreshing to go onto someone's website and sort of, you know, they're so ahead of so many, and it's just such a really nice thing to see. And um, I will continue to follow your work, and
Oh, thank you.
hopefully, when we're allowed to travel next time, I
Yeah.
can get out there. There's a little, I'm sure you know, on Cedros Avenue, the little brew pub right there. I don't know
Yep.
if you, and I am a
Culture.
huge fan of passion fruit. And I walked
Okay.
in one day for a meeting and saw they have a passion fruit beer, and my mind was blown. So
Yeah.
maybe
There's
next
a
time
lot
in
of
town we can meet up in
definitely
person. It would be very
for
nice to meet you.
sure. Yeah, and I definitely want to I'm excited to hear about more on your product line
Uh,
and
Thank you.
and obviously learn and see how we can incorporate that as well because it sounds like it's a
Appreciate it.
beautiful product.